think it's equidistant. The further you go into darkness, the more expansive is your light. It's bigger than what people can explain, this real world. I believe I've been in the real world. Hid him under the coffee table, and I laid down in front, and I stayed awake all night, aware. If I don't stand, then all of us are lost.
You're so open about your struggles, you're so open about your childhood. There are people in our audience who feel heard.
The Phoenix is waiting for all of us. You just gotta take a step forward to it. This world is not a passive world. This life is not a passive world. Get involved, take it personal. Each and every one of you out there has the opportunity to be a warrior. I went on my first Kung Fu competition, massive Chinese and international competition. I had such a great attitude, I volunteered for the Shaolin monk's demonstration. He beat the shit out of me for about 3 minutes. Oh, I would later find out he's known as the Iron Leg of China, and now the competition's about to start. And I took gold in every single thing.
Welcome back to the Mulligan Brothers, and today's episode is with a very special guest. Today I get to sit down with Recon Marine, Rudy Reyes. This episode was absolutely incredible. We really dove into the depths of what makes Rudy who he is and how the military career affected him, some of the missions that he went on, and the mindset that he had to be in to perform those tasks and those missions, and how we can apply some of those teachings to our life. He was born in Kansas City, and he had a very, very tough upbringing. In fact, it was one of the most heartbreaking stories to listen to. I didn't realize what Rudy had been through as a child and some of the things he'd had to face. Yeah, it's a tough watch. It's a tough story, but I promise you it's one of the most valuable listens you're going to have on the channel. He eventually became a Recon Marine and did some unbelievable work, but he did carry some dark passengers around with him throughout his military career, which he speaks about on this today. And he talks about the process of moving past that, of finding the love of his life and finding the Lord and helping others. And this is the incredible journey of Rudy Reyes that I'm so excited in a sort of never heard before version. Also, I want to say a massive thank you to Jade, Rudy's wife, and Rudy for taking us out shooting the very next day, where we spent a full day with them and Whiskey Savage Media, shooting guns, learning about gun safety, and also shooting a documentary for the main channel. So if you want to get up to date with that, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and go over to the main channel and do the exact same for when the documentary comes out with Rudy Reyes. Today's video, as always, is powered by Huel. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about Huel later on in the video, but I travel with this. This is the Black Edition version. It has 26 vitamins and minerals, 35 grams of protein, and slow release carbs that make sure that I'm on it when I'm doing these interviews and I'm shooting the documentary. If you want to find out more, head to the link in the description. I also want to mention that I am doing a charity run at the moment. I'm carrying a 220-pound stone from the north of Scotland, heading south towards England to make a headstone for my son. It's going to be a journey over 450 miles, and it's a big, big, ambitious goal. It's all to raise money for bereaved parents who have been affected by stillbirth and baby loss. So if you want to donate, there is a GoFundMe down below, and we're also giving away, there's a link for the giveaway down below, for a ice bath from Brass Monkey that's £25,000. Every £5 donation goes to the charity. And also Chad Robershow is giving away a optic and a rangefinder worth over $9,000 from the company Vortex for our American audience. So every $5 donation will get you a entry into that as well, where all the money goes to the charity. So if you're interested in those giveaways or donating to the charity, I cannot thank you guys enough. I'm on a mission to make sure that every parent who suffers from losing their child has a headstone. It should be a minimum. So yeah, thank you so much for the support, guys. Now let's dive into the episode with the amazing Rudy Reyes. Take out your pens and paper, because this episode is full of life lessons.
Having a purpose, aligning yourself with a purpose, has been the greatest gift that's been given to me since I was since I was a child, because of suffering and pain and neglect, I was abused and hurt bad, and then I had the intuition to know that it's next coming from Michael and Caesar, my two little brothers, because we're only a year apart each. Boom, the purpose is I need to protect and prepare them. And that is what got me out of my own pain. Matter of fact, I almost didn't remember pain during those times, during those years, although I was very sick, and we were living on our own in a shack of a house with the floor falling to the dirt, rats and cockroaches. Rats would be climbing over us at night, and barely making it calorically. I remember one time just having to make sandwiches for the little boys with stale hot dog buns that I chopped into 3 pieces with just some mustard and like some onions maybe in the fridge, and we were struggling. However, at that time, I did not recognize what pain and how close to the brink on my health that I was. I had hepatitis, and we all 3 had worms and lice. I still went to the park to do pull-ups, dips. I still went to the park and swung on the swings to kind of feel speed and lightness. I just felt sick in my stomach every day and smelled garbage. These teeth are fake, these are all a bridge. They had become rotten and infected, so it got into my sinuses and my eyeball. So I was starting to get blurry vision in one eye from the abscess, and I smelled garbage every day, and it was my own face, right? And I started developing boils on my gum, and so I'd have to cut them before school every morning. However, the drive was, I'm building stronger young men, Michael and Caesar, and that means I got to be strong. So that's what I did. And that's the gift of suffering. It will open up doors to you. We spoke earlier why I struggle with my mom. I think because that purpose I got so young, and it's driven me my entire life. Well, first Michael and Caesar, and then it was my country in the Marine Corps, and now it's my veterans, now it's my new family. I never looked at the darkness in myself. Never even consider it. I just went forward. And when I was brought into my knees after service and strung out on hard drugs, and I was in a mental institution for a year, I was at the end of what I could do on my own. And then I looked at that darkness, and it scared me. It scared me and humiliated me. So I started rebuilding myself again. And now I'm finally aware enough and maybe confident enough to not be confident. I'm confident and secure enough to be scared now. And so, I am scared sometimes now. And that's a big step for me.
I mean, yeah, the situation that you were in, you probably couldn't show fear. You couldn't show weakness.
Not even to myself.
Not even to yourself. Yeah, that needing that mentality, to be there for your brothers. Wow. Okay. We've got a lot to dive into already.
Yeah.
What I usually ask is, just for the audience, just introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Even introductions are kind of crazy, right? My name is Rudy Reyes, Rodolfo Reyes. I'm from Kansas City. I was born there on an air base. My father was fighting in Vietnam. My biological father was a Marine as well. And he'd already been back from 2 tours, but he was gone to us. I traveled through the Midwest in different people's homes, and through foster care, and then ultimately the Omaha Home for Boys. And I found my first family on the wrestling mat with other competitors, and all my boys' home brothers. They're all from suffering backgrounds too. I became a fighter for the good, and martial arts, kickboxing, most importantly, the Zen Buddhism, the spirit to guide me through, which led me to the Marine Corps. And I know it seems juxtaposed, a man of Buddha and peace through discipline and martial art. Because remember, all of my fights, all of my matches, we have rules. And never once did I think of actually hurting my opponent. I thought of beating them, not hurting them, not killing them. But there was a war on the horizon in Kosovo, and I saw a documentary about orphans that were caught in the middle. And so I looked at a newspaper, the USA Today, and it said that President Clinton is putting boots on the ground in Kosovo. And I felt like this was my moment of truth. I'd never considered doing the military before, even though I loved John Rambo, even though I loved the fortitude and the confidence that comes from being a warrior in your environment. I'd never considered carrying a rifle for my country, but I saw those orphans in need. And if another young man was going to go fight and take up the discipline, the arms, and possibly face their death, I, as a young man, I was 26, I had to do my part. So I joined the Marine Corps.
I mean, we just spoke about the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah.
And he carried that sword with him, which was his suffering, and he used that to help other people, and because he understood that really well. With that story there, seeing those orphans, your suffering as a child has been a massive influence on your call to action to go do that.
Yes. I think I'm compelled to protect and fight suffering. And maybe it's, as I'm talking about it now, I'm thinking maybe ever since I've had an opportunity with my man's growth, by fighting for something that's innocent, I can fight for myself, because no one was there to fight for me. Mythologically, archetypally, possibly that is why I'm so driven. Brother, that really could be why I'm so driven. I'm fighting for me, the kid that didn't have a chance. In a sense, I'm showing up for him. I never really considered that that's still where I get my energy from. It must be, because I still got it after all these years.
I think that's especially, something we see a lot with, we spoke about Billy, he went through such a difficult situation as a child, rough background. I'm curious as to if you can decipher what is the difference between, which happens to most people, falling victim to that situation, or, taking that suffering and wanting to help others with it as well.
Yeah. I'm wondering also if there's might be a genetic component. I would come to find out my biological father, a Spaniard, my family has been in Mexico for 400 or 500 years. One of the first Spaniard families that came over. They were horsemen, they were conquistadors, they're athletes. My grandfather, on my biological father's side, was on the first Mexican basketball Olympic team. My biological father was a boxer and a horseman and an athlete. Maybe some of those traits to stand and fight against, maybe that trait of almost an obstinance that I will stand and fight against. I must have had some of that, or maybe I had a lot of it. But my mother is incredibly emotional. And that's probably why she's always been a victim, because she's always been a victim first to her own emotions, as opposed to how things lie on the ground, and therefore how to approach it strategically. My mother's very emotional, so I was too. Seeing suffering and pain, it really always hurt my heart. Seeing animals being hurt, or the first time I had to get in a fight, Caesar and I, against these two brothers, and the older brother was Douglas, and he had a younger brother, and we were all four of us close in age, and we were getting bullied. And I was 6 or 7, and Caesar was in kindergarten, so he was like 5. And we're tussling in the front yard, and we're fighting. Only like 6 and 7-year-olds, 5-year-olds know how to fight, gripping and tussling and wrestling. And one of the brothers had got on top of Caesar, and I saw my brother Caesar crying. So I took my opponent down. His name is Douglas. I'll never forget it. And he had glasses on. I took him down with the head and arm, and I held him with his head and arm. Saw my brother Caesar crying, and I saw him not giving up. So I had to hit him in the face. And I broke his glasses, and I saw him cry. I started crying. I hit him a couple of times, and I'm crying too. And I'm like, I almost feel like, I'm saying, God damn this world, you know what I mean? Like, God damn this cruel world in your 7-year-old mind. And it was an insight into the reality of mankind. And so I've always been sensitive. I think after everything we'd been through in South Texas, my brothers and I, and then showing up to the boys' home and being brand new, and having to fight much bigger kids, and everyone's from anger and drug-addicted parents and parents from prostitution, or something has to be said too, poor white kids whose families' farms went under, proud families now cannot take care of their boys. So there's a lot of anger and sadness. Everybody felt so sad to be away from their family. I had to fight there. Then I learned to be hard. Taught me to be hard, and I had to be hard. And that would be layered upon when I joined the Marine Corps.
I mean, we spoke about your childhood quite a bit, I'd say, today, but I know there's a ton to unpack. It's incredible and tragic at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first memory at all as a child?
I have a few great ones. By the way, my dad, Rudy Reyes Sr., he's passed. So I'm his favorite son, not his biological kids. I'm his favorite son, and he always held me up on a pedestal. I didn't know he was not my biological father till I was about 10 or 11. That really hurt. But I was his favorite son, and I spent about 3 years of my life as a child with him. My mother and Rudy Reyes Sr. divorced very early, just when little Michael was born. And he'd always call me Papa, and he'd call me Dad. He'd say Dad, and I'd say Dad. He'd go Dad. And he'd also call me my little huevitos, like my little balls. He's a character, funny, Marine Corps, confident, powerful, even though he was 5'3", 5'4", most confident dude in the room. He took me to, we did Halloween. I think Michael wasn't even born yet. It was just Caesar and I. And I had a Casper the Friendly Ghost costume on. This is a fire hazard. This vinyl, I don't know if you all have them in the UK, a vinyl costume with a plastic vinyl mask. Just a fire hazard waiting to happen. You know what I'm saying? You end up looking like Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger if you freaking get anywhere near a match with this thing. And we're trick-or-treating, and I'm smelling that vinyl, and I'm holding hands with both him and my mother, and I have some beautiful little vignettes like that, and then I got some tough ones too. Like my grandfather was my mother's father, and he was really violent, drank to excess, and loved to hurt people, and he was a child abuser, and hated me, little did I know, because I was a bastard. I had no idea. Nobody in my Mexican traditional family talked about any of this stuff. So I didn't know why, first of all, I looked kind of more fair, and why all of my cousins and relatives always treated me differently, and treated my mother horribly for this reason. And I guess she had been fighting with my grandfather. I was about 3 or 4. And I remember I was so small that the bed was high, and I used all my athletic ability. I was an athlete even when I was 3 years old. I jumped up on that bed. This is down on the border of Texas and Mexico. We had curtains that were flowers. And I would see the shadows of the hummingbirds zooming around, trying to get the flowers of the curtains. And the breeze is going through, and it was such a beautiful day, and the light coming through, but my mother was shuddering and crying. I said, "What's wrong, Mommy? What's wrong?" And she couldn't tell me. She had been fighting with her father. She was crying, and then I hear this this big ruckus and then sirens outside. And I go running out the front porch and jump off the front porch, and I see my father there, Rudy Reyes Sr., and my scumbag of a grandfather, whose his eyes were always jaundiced and yellow, and he's got his knife out. My dad's got his pistol out, and I run to my dad, and I'm holding on to his legs. Daddy, what's wrong? Are you going to kill him? Because I wanted him to. That man, that grandfather of mine, I didn't know nobody liked me. I had no idea. He whipped me one time for the smallest of infractions. And he had a really skinny belt. He's still dressed in the 50s. This is like 1975, 74. And he whipped me so mercilessly. It cut me so bad that I kind of went into shock and I couldn't stop heaving. Right? My mother was, I think she might have been out partying. She was young. She was only 17 when she had me. And when she came home the next day, I was still, but I had already moved on with my life. I'm playing in the bathtub with my two brothers. I'd already been playing outside, but I was cut up really bad all over. And I'm heaving. And I never forgot that. I never forgot it. And so when my dad had that 357, he had his Colt Python. He'd just come onto the police department. So are you going to kill him? Like I was hoping, are you going to kill him? And of course he wanted to. And my mom comes running out. She's screaming. There's cops there that are his buddies trying to calm it down. And I guess this is just the environment and this history. It's not that unique to me. It seems that in a lot of rough and tumble regions, the border, places where there's a lot of pain and economic struggle, when things are falling apart, I'm sure that there's been some other kids probably grew up like me. At the time, it was all I knew. And then shortly, my mother and father were completely apart, and then I'd moved to Kansas City with my grandmother. And I wonder if because I was so traumatized so early on that it inspired my memory. Like I've got a really short memory ever since. Photographic, I think. If I read something, I never forget. If I see something, I can't remember lyrics unless I read them. But if I see something, probably because of that trauma. And I remember preschool. I fell asleep in the bus, and we were going on a field trip to the farm. And I was so little, I was sleeping in the seat, and they didn't do a head count. The bus driver went on back to the bus depot. I woke up smelling like freaking oil and gas and pneumatics, and it's a big auto shop for buses. And I started to cry, and I didn't know where I was, and they found me. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's that. Maybe it was those early traumas. But also, I have so many great memories of like chasing the little baby frogs out of the canal, and playing with my two puppies, and learning to read, learning to draw. I'm an artist as well. Learning to draw, and being number one at school. I was number one at school until third grade, and that's when my life really started falling apart. I was number one. Writing, arithmetic. I was even in the gifted and talented program, considering I had no resources at home, but I was so in love with it. I still am an avid reader. I still read all the time. And I just kept going forward. I just kept going forward best I could. I love comic books. I love heroes. I focused on that, That's what I did.
Listening to your childhood is tough. Those difficult moments are tough. The fact that you smile and pick out those good memories, though, is so amazing. What was the turning point? So your parents split.
Yes, it was the 70s, and maybe a lot of people, maybe our older audience will appreciate this, but in the fallout of Vietnam, the fallout of American and Western exceptionalism, the 70s are a really dark time. Of course, we love the music. We love the art because of all of that pain and darkness. My mother was already a drug addict by then, probably by 20. My father was addicted to violence and women, but mostly violence after Vietnam. He was a cop, and in South Texas, dangerous cop. The world was violent and dark, and there were no heroes. It wasn't cool to be a good guy. It was actually, people were much more interested in drugs and pressing the envelope with hedonism or hubris or whatever, but there was no heroes. And so the older generation, my grandmother, who came from a respectable family, she took us in, my mom and my two brothers, myself. And we had a suburban life for about 3 years, and that's where I learned to read, write, have great marks at school, not worry about gangs or drugs or nothing. But then she died at 51, younger than I am myself. And my mother, I guess, just blew the money she got from her with her new pimp boyfriend. And after all that money ran out and all the drugs were gone, she wanted to get rid of us. Yeah, so we bounced around from one cousin to one aunt, and then friends, and then my father, I got to go back with him for a year, but he had such extreme PTSD. He was an alcoholic and loved to beat motherfuckers' asses, and that's what he did. And he loved having a gun. And I can understand all this because I would go through it myself later. So we were just in survival mode. Thank God I knew how to read and write. That education that I got from preschool, kindergarten to second grade carried me all the way through high school and graduation, because I never really learned again from that. I was too busy surviving. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, completely. So then, you are how old?
Things started getting really, really bad around 8, 9 years old. And so I had to start leaning on myself. I had some stepbrothers and sisters from this pimp guy. And they were hard Mexicans, hard Mexican-American gangbangers. And I look white. My little brothers are small. So they beat us and abused us and humiliated us all the time. And so I think I started lifting concrete, cans of paint, doing training out at the park, every time I saw a Rocky film, I'm doing one-arm push-ups. I knew the key was strength. I knew the only way forward through this hell was strength. And my discipline started then.
And as a 8, 9-year-old boy, when you're doing those press-ups, when you're working out with cans of paint, what was the thought in your mind?
One day I'm going to be strong enough when no one can hurt me. One day, I'm not going to be afraid. That's it. One day, I am not going to be afraid. And it came sooner than I thought. By the time I was in the boys' home, I was 12 maybe, I was wrestling, and I would always have to wrestle. Part of the culture of wrestling is the first 10 or 15 minutes of practice before practice starts. The junior guys wrestle the seniors and the heavyweights. I was wrestling in 8th grade, I think either 94 or 98 pounds. So small, but I'd have to wrestle strong mesomorphs that are 165, 170 pounds. And they'd smash you. But you must never let them put your back on the ground. And I fought so fast and so hard. And then slowly I started getting very strong. Nothing like grappling strength. Something about pitting muscle against muscle, weight against weight. And I think it turns on genes. We also did rope climbs, running, press-ups, pull-ups, and focused on conditioning. and that confidence. And then I started winning. And by the time I went to my 8th grade season, I was undefeated, and I got trophies. And by traveling into other schools, I got to see a different caliber of people. Competitors, I could tell, are a different caliber. Even in the boys' home, there was still a lot of talk about drugs and chicks and drugs and breaking the law and crime, because quite a few of us came from crime families, street crime families. And that was much more acceptable to be cool than to be a true believer and to be an athlete. I saw the difference immediately, that I was in a different caliber and a different environment and a different vibration of people. I'm doing this. And I took it personally. I took it really personally. I still do.
You said earlier about, did you call him your master?
Yeah, my Kung Fu master, Chun Man Sit, the legend.
And you had this mentality immediately, which I think is so important if you're in sports, especially combat sports, but in sports is to submit to that and to be like, they are the master, and you know, you accept and you do everything they tell you to do to the best of your ability, and more.
That's right.
I speak to that mentality. I love it.
There may be different shades of the truth to this, but my first Kung Fu teacher, I believe, well, I know he had connections to organized crime, and I know he was indoctrinated by his teacher, who was of Far East descent. As a hired killer, because my first Kung Fu teacher, he was an orphan too, and he was really easily indoctrinated. So the Kung Fu he taught us was magnificent, but it was all so damn violent. It was so damn violent. Always cross-stepping into the knee and raking to the cheek and eye, and really hardcore, you know, tiger and eagle boxing. Except I remember one time he said something. By the way, I love this man. He's getting older now, and I'm back together with him too, because he never had any children. And it never set right with me. Maybe because I was physically and sexually abused when I was little. He said that when he tears somebody's face, it feels like his fingers are penises. And remember that my brothers and I, we were still living on the streets, because that's where I could afford to have an apartment. We worked as dishwashers and as busboys, and they came with me every day to the YMCA to do physical training and to do Kung Fu and lift weights. Never on the streets for any other reason, but we had to live there, right? There was a lot of gang violence. Crack was all over the place. This is in 90, 91, 92, 93. And something, it broke my heart after a while going to class, and I became the top student, but I just didn't possess that violence in me, or coldness. I didn't possess that. And then I heard of Chun Man Sit, the short order cook from a grocery store that teaches in the park on Sundays. Now, doing Shaolin and doing this Hong Gar Kung Fu, we trained in a secret warehouse like this that I also lived in and also protected. And I remember some mob guys coming through, and he'd have us come out and do some demonstrations. And it was like a little clan or cult, you know? But you know what? No drugs, no alcohol, nothing but training. Still, I knew there was something more. And I went to Chun Man Sit's class, and his Kung Fu was very soft, and he didn't look like a badass. And then I did not challenge him, but we were doing some free sparring a little bit. And I don't remember what was said, but basically, well, you can try harder, he said to me. So I tried harder, and I was slapped so hard. My freaking bell was rung. I'm on the ground. I get back up immediately on instinct to go again, and he slaps me 2 more times as opposed to punching, but so fast and powerful. Wham! And right there, I already know who, who the big boss in this town is right there. Right then, I didn't even have to say anything. I just knew I'm going to be there, and I'm going to learn from this man, and I'm going to do whatever he says. And that's what we did. And it took 2 years for me to be an indoor student where I'd start training at his house. I had to do all my drills and train. We do a 5-hour class on Sundays, and I train every day for 2 or 3 hours out in the field. In the rain, in the snow, because, this is Kansas City, in the heat, while I'm doing construction and demolition, while I'm doing some bouncer work, while I'm doing whatever. My focus was martial arts, and I did whatever he told me, double. And after some time, he said, Rudy, you possess what is most important in a great student. And I thought, what? Physical ability? No, no, no. I said, discipline. He goes, no, no, no. I said, Sifu, then what is it? And he says, obedient. Not even obedience. Remember, his English was a little broken back then, but obedient. And then I went on my first Kung Fu competition with him here to Dallas, Texas at the Jingwu Martial Art Academy. Massive Chinese and international competition. Lion dance, forms, fencing, weapons, and then, of course, Kumite kickboxing and wrestling. Because I had such a great attitude, I volunteered for the Shaolin monks demonstration for Sanshao and Shuijiao. There was no mats on the floor at the time, the massive convention center. And when I threw my punch, he shot underneath me and scooped with a hard whipping double leg. My head hit the deck. Boom, and I am kooky. I'm concussed bigger than shit. I jumped to my feet to protect myself, and then he asked me to kick, and I kick hard, and he freaking double blocks my freaking knee and my quadricep. I feel my quadricep. And this guy, I would later find out he's known as the Iron Leg of China. This little monk. He beat the shit out of me for about 3 minutes. And then finally my teacher jumped in. Okay, that's it, And I don't know what I'm going to do. And now the competition's about to start. I do 2-person set. I do empty hand technique. I do sword technique. I do staff technique. I do wrestling. I do push hands, and then I do free sparring. And I'm out of it. And I took gold in every single thing, I think, but the push hands. And I was the grand champion of no school of the short order cook, Chunman Sit. I'm beat the hell up, and I beat the best rush. Oh, and there's no weight classes. I'm a middleweight. There's no weight class, so I'm fighting all the big karate dudes. So this is how it works. The karate and the full contact guys, they know they're just going to clean house. We just go to the Kung Fu competition. There's no real weight classes, and these guys can't really fight. So I'm fighting fresh, experienced karate fighters, Kyoshkin fighting karate fighters, hard, tough dudes. I had a couple Russians too. Bro, I whooped that ass. That side kick, and I was just so much more conditioned, and I was just so much faster, and I never got angry, and so I never got afraid. I was never angry. I just saw the gaps, and I just went to the gaps, and I could wrestle. Afterwards, I'm in La La Land. All the Kung Fu teachers, why we really do big competitions is to do the workshops afterwards, so I can learn some Bagua, I can learn Bagua Xingyi, I can do some freaking Fujian White Crane, I can have a person that's coming in from, for Shuijiao, which is fast wrestling, and these are all monks and masters from China. And all the masters are smoking some herb, and they're all doing push hands and doing techniques and sparring in the parking lot. These are all dudes that are my age and older now, 50s, 60s, 70s. I'm just this young, fresh-faced guy. And Sit says to me, the genius that he is, he says, Rudy, no one know my name here, but everyone say, that's Rudy's teacher. So now he's famous. So he's printed all kinds of cool stuff in the martial art journals. He's been in the Kung Fu magazines. He was just so, they'll plum. He said, no one here know my name, Rudy. But they say, that's Rudy's teacher. And that was the biggest love. He was saying, kid, you made me proud. You put me on the map. I'm a nobody, but maybe I am somebody. Like you believed in me, I believed in you. How special is that, man?
Yeah. I mean, you were proof of that he was somebody.
Yeah, damn straight. Damn straight. A matter of fact, I was doing long fist and all these, and then some freaking Southern style Wing Chun derivative, like this elbow combat called 6 elbows, all in tight. And then I did the long fist stuff too, very athletic, Shaolin. After doing it for about a year, he says, no, we're not doing any of this. And I'm like, damn, that's the real Kung Fu. You know what I mean? I'm learning these freaking super rad techniques and you know, the abilities and the aesthetics. And he said, we're doing none of that. You're going to do these drills on each side, in each way, this amount of times. You're going to have an answer for the takedown. You're going to have an answer for the head and arm. You're going to have 3 takedowns you can do in any direction. You're going to have a boxing coach too for conditioning of the shoulders and speed. No more weightlifting, only bands and plyometrics. Specifically, all my kicking and punching drills I would do up a hill. So I'm overcoming gravity. So even though in combat stress you shrink a little bit, I'm used to so over penetrating that even in a shrunken combat stress mindset, I was still exploding through my opponents. And this is all because of Sid.
Today's episode, as always, was powered by Huel. I'm drinking Black Edition today, which is 35 grams of protein, 26 vitamins and minerals, and slow-release carbohydrates. I've been using this for the shoots as we go around Texas. We've been to North Carolina, Georgia, New York, LA. This is what I'm drinking because it keeps me in shape. It keeps the protein in my body. It means I can go for the Atlas World Records. I can run up mountains. I can do the world's heaviest marathon and 450 miles with a 30 to 40 kilo stone on my back. This is what is powering it. And I genuinely mean that. They send me fridges full of this stuff and I absolutely love it. I was using it before they sponsored us and I'll be using it for the rest of our life. They're an amazing company and I can't thank them enough for supporting us. If you want to find out more about them, head to the link in the description where you can get exclusive offers like a free shaker, free t-shirt, and much, much more, including discounts with the link down below. And don't just take my word for it. It can be a great part of a busy lifestyle to save you time, but it can also be a great part of performance and health. And somebody like the hardest geezer running the whole length of Africa drinking this stuff should be more than enough of a head nod towards it being great stuff. I absolutely love it and I swear by it. But yeah, don't just take my word for it. Anyway, let's dive back into this amazing episode with Rudy Reyes. You know, we spoke over some coffee and I said, one of the things that made me want to speak to you so much is that you're so open about your struggles, you're so open about your childhood, and because of that, there are people in our audience who feel heard, they feel listened to, they feel that they can look at you and go, well, look what he's managed to overcome and be here, and they feel comfort in that, and they also take teachings from yourself. There's so many parts of your childhood that I think people, you know, would connect with, but when you're at this moment when you're on the streets and you're looking after your brothers, is there one thing that would, or story that would sort of capture where you were at that moment in time, or the situation that you and your brothers were facing at that moment that we could share with the audience? And I'm sure there's so many situations you had to go through and face and overcome, but is there something that stands out?
We were caught in the Rodney King riots back in 1991. Or was it 92, 91 or 92? And my brother Michael and Caesar had just come from Kung Fu class at the YMCA with me. And because Michael and Caesar look more Mexican than me, but I look pretty white, I guess. And this isn't, I didn't always have this great tan because I'm at the swimming pool all the time. You know, I always had to work. So, we were mobbed by thousands of people, and I had to drive my car to try to get to my place. And we were living on 20th and Oak. This is in the inner city in Kansas City. And some guys followed me back. And I was maybe 19 or 20. So Caesar would have been 18 or 19. Michael was 17. And I opened up the door knowing, because I had already been through so much, knowing that this is a survival situation and we're going to have to fight hard. So one of the guys starts to get out of his car, and I just run and I kick the door and crunch him up in it. And now he's not sure about getting back out because I'm fired up. Another guy on the other side has a beer, full beer bottle. He throws the beer at me. And I just duck out of the way, and it hits the tree next to me. And I guess the glass cuts my head. And so I'm bleeding, but I just think it's just beer. And so I'm looking pretty ferocious, ready to go. Another beer bottle comes, and it bounces off maybe the vinyl sidework of this tenement that I was living in, hits the ground. And my little brother Caesar steps on the beer bottle, the beer, full bottle beer, and it starts spinning backwards. And then Caesar kicks it, and it hits the windshield of the car and explodes. And Caesar says, "I don't want no trouble, but I'll kick your ass if need be." And it just paused everything. And the fellas loaded up and got the hell on out of there. And we all just shared a look together, you know what I mean? Little Michael over there on his freaking Kung Fu stance. Caesar standing proud, doing the most ninja Matrix shit ever. And me with blood pouring down my face. And I was like, yeah, the three amigos, you can't stop us.
Brothers, man.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And, you know, my brother Caesar ended up spending some hard time in prison. Michael struggled. We've always struggled for money. And all from scars of our youth. But it was Caesar who everybody had written off. He was in prison for fighting police. And he'd become such a dangerous alcoholic and loved. He had so much pain, it would always come out in violence. Matter of fact, the first person to hit me and knock me unconscious was my brother Caesar. He was a dangerous guy, considering all the pain we came from. When I was falling apart and imploding from PTSD, and I think I just got out of the mental institution, and I went right back to hard drugs and isolation. That's what I just isolate myself. And then, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Is there something about women, females, their need to nurture, their need to love? I seem to always attract some woman that wanted to love me or save me, or and of course I would break their heart. I could, and then the one person I wanted to be with was horrible to me. I think I was living deeply inside my own anger and sadness and humiliation at myself. That I used to be somebody, a Recon team leader, scout sniper, combat diver, falling from the sky in a parachute, trusted with thousands of lives because of the missions that I took on, doing things that were almost impossible, and now I'm this. It was Caesar who said, "I understand what you're going through." It was Caesar that said, I'm not leaving you. And he used to hate me, the older brother that seemed to have it all. And it was Caesar that was there for me and helped pick me up. And to this day, we're so close. He hasn't had a drink of alcohol in 7+ years. He's a chef now. And Michael back in the fold, because I broke his heart by being his hero his whole life and now becoming a cyborg killing machine, because I had become cold. He'd see me street fight too. Fuck people up. And we are now back together. We're now back together, and it's stronger than ever. And Michael and I text and talk every day, and he's got his own little Kung Fu channel now. He's doing some YouTube, and he's doing his 6 Elbows Kung Fu and his Mikey Reyes Kansas City Kung Fu. And we're all back on track, bringing our dreams back to life because we got each other. It took a long time, but we're back together.
I mean, talk about paying dividends.
Yeah.
You know, that saving you in that darkest of moments. Incredible.
Yeah.
The standing up for yourself element of it, like, that is something I wish I could implant in people, because it takes a moment like that where and I think, you know, people who do stand up for themselves have had that moment in their lives where they've had to turn around, face the bully, and, you know, and stand up for themselves or for their family, for their brothers, in your case.
There's something else I got to share.
Yeah, please do.
Way before I was physically strong and disciplined, had coaches, had kung fu teachers, had my man's growth, is when I was sexually abused down here in South Texas, and by a step uncle. My father was not a, you know, I'll tell the audience out right here, audience, if you have children or children are in your lives, understand that they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable. And if parents and the village and the teachers and the cousins and the family is not switched on, these children can become casualties, and some never, ever recover. And I recognize now I was groomed by this uncle because he knew I was by myself and made friends with me and gave me candy. And I thought, oh, this is a man that really loves me. Remember, I'm still suffering, searching for a parent. When he abused me that night, the coldness and the pain of the soulful pain, the entire known universe that you have constructed in your young mind is destroyed. Immediately I knew Michael and Caesar, they must be vulnerable. They're all living in some shithole shack in South Texas at some relative's house for a holiday celebration, and we're on the border, and we're all sleeping on the floor. All the kids sleeping on the floor. These adults, this guy, and you know, people tried to abuse me later, but I was powerful and strong by then. Like after that, I was powerful and strong, and I fought. It happened in the boys' home. I got little Michael and Caesar. I was so scared. I was very sick. I was rotting through the face and had hepatitis and worms. But I grabbed my two little brothers and I hid them underneath a little coffee table, not much bigger than this chair, little kids. I hid them under the coffee table and I laid down in front and I stayed awake all night. Fucking devastated. However, aware, if I don't stand, then all of us are lost. And that made me sick to my stomach for about 3 years. I was sick every day to my stomach. When I became a champion wrestler and I saw the dividends coming from training, strangely for a few years, all those memories just went away. And I was focused on painting and wrestling and lifting weights and music and living. I don't know if it's our psyche and our soul knowing that we need to compartmentalize some things until we're able to look at it honestly. The next time I was attempted to be abused was in the boys' home. That was about a year later, and I already been through a few different places of living. They cut out my teeth and they gave me this bridge, gave me a haircut, gave me medicine for the worms. I got to eat food. I fucking felt amazing, but it was still, I was hundreds of miles from any place I even considered could have been a home. One of the bigger boys became friends with me, and I trusted him. And of course, one night, and we lived in little units, like 3 or 4 of us in a unit. And because I was so mature and doing so good with wrestling, I got put in the bigger boys' barracks. And I was having a dream that my mother was hugging me and kissing me. And then the kisses started getting really weird, and I woke up, and it's this fucking 16, 17-year-old boy. And he goes, shh. And unlike the border in South Texas, unlike McAllen, Texas, I went, get the fuck out of here. You better get the fuck out of here before I fucking kill you. Even though I'm only, 95 pounds, 90 pounds. And I went straight straight to my house parents the next morning. Everything was covered up. I mean, this is 1984, 85. Nobody wanted to talk about sexual abuse in general, and definitely not in a boys' home. And but the word got out, and all the little boys started staying away from him, and we started building alliances. And this guy said, by the way, I have compassion for this guy now. I feel sorry for this 16 or 17-year-old kid. Who knows what the fuck was done to him? He says, I'm gonna get you. And I was like, yeah, bring it on, motherfucker. Well, he caught me coming out of the barracks, and we lived on like 5-6 steps of stoop, and it was the winter time. It was really cold, snow everywhere. This is Nebraska. And, he said, what are you gonna do now? I'm like, well, I'm gonna fucking fight you, even though I'm scared. And this guy's fucking big, and I'm a little kid still, strong, but a little kid. But I know how to fight, and I'm now a fighter. I fight for myself. So I leap into him to start trying to bang the body, but he's already got a hold of my hair, and he's freaking smashing me in the face, fucking me up. I got this really bad scar right here that split my lip all the way through the teeth because I was little, and he's fucking nailing me. Spraying blood everywhere, you know. And I'm seeing my blood just pouring out on the deck. I'm swinging, trying to get at him, and he's just ragdolling me on my hair. And my hand happened to hit a pile of, we had our wood pile, our firewood. So we worked the whole ground. So we did the construction, I waited the tables, I washed the dishes, we worked the grounds, we had a farm, we worked the farm, we worked, right? Well, I hit this wood, and they're chunks of firewood, they're big. But my back of my hand hit this little twig, and that twig, my hand came back around, I searched for it, and I grabbed it, and it was a smaller log, and I got a hold of this twig, and I swung it with everything I had, and I hit him in the knee, and I hurt him. And he let go. I hurt him. And then I just started swinging with everything I got. And he backed up, and he fell off the stairs. He stayed off in the snow. I'm gonna fucking get you. I said, hey, come on. I got into the barracks there in the house. Parents are seeing me, and I'm a bloody mess. And it was so rough back then. Who knows if there was insurance or whatever. So I went to the emergency room, waited about 7 hours before they sewed me up. So I scarred up pretty bad. Scarred up my nose too. And I look back, I'm like, where did that freaking courage come from? Well, those layers, like you said, maybe sometimes I'm thankful for the abuse, because it's the truth. That's the real world. The real world is, if you're not strong, you'll be victimized. If you're not strong, you'll be taken. If you're not strong and identify other strong people and come together on ethics, on morals, and pledge yourself to something bigger, then you'll fall. I learned that very early. No wonder I did well in Recon. No wonder I did all of those suicide missions without a thought, because those 4 other men, my life was in their hands and their life was in mine. And those 5 of us could do could do more than 500. There was power there, like Knights of the Round Table there. Over time, though, with that extremity, there's a cost for it. Jordan, there's a cost for extremity. There's a cost for extreme violence as a method of solving problems. Sometimes it is needed. But when it becomes your only way, and there's something else, I don't know if any of your other warriors have talked about it, but damn, you get enticed. It even happened to me, the compassionate kid that loves hummingbirds, all right? The kid that loved the color purple, and you know, when Mickey dies in Rocky 3, I'm in tears, you know. Even I fell in love with this freaking power. Man, we're carrying rockets and grenades, and I'm controlling the close air support. And I've got helicopters that are on my beck and call, lighting up anything and everything that moves on the other side of this river. I'm given trust by my commanders to, under the cover of darkness, climb a bridge with explosives, rig it deep behind enemy lines. Wow. Pretty soon I believe that I can do anything. And I especially am good at things that are dangerous. And if they're dangerous, it normally means somebody's got to get hurt or killed. It affected me. It changed me. It changed me. Some of that will never leave me. But now I understand that that's just the cost. So I'm going to do something good with this. I'm going to teach these people or invite them to some things that maybe can empower them. I'm going to invite them to really pursue their spiritual selves' purpose, to be mentally, physically, and emotionally strong. And I told Mr. Callum Best this: take it personal. I take it personal.
The moment that you've been abused, you immediately think of your two brothers. Is there a higher purpose to that? Is there, looking back now, especially with your faith, your newfound love for the faith, like, is that something that you think was in place at that point?
I think it was God stepping in. Obviously, it's bigger than me. All this is bigger than me. I almost think of myself as a passenger in my life. Sometimes I look back. How did everything go so good for me? How did everything go so good for me? I'm just in awe. I have a wonderful, my Mrs. Jade is just the most incredible, most beautiful best friend, wife, loved one. I've got my children. I've got my brothers. I've got my veteran community that embraces me and gives me credence that, like, I'm even current or valid. I mean, the world moves so fast now. The trends, the shticks, the people, the freaking bullshit, it's just ever flowing, and then you're just lost in some kind of current. Some reason I'm still valued. It's just a gift, and it had to be all of it. Must have been, God said, Rudy, we got to make you because the world needs you, and you're going to need you. You're not preaching anything to the world that you're not living yourself. Matter of fact, you're not preaching at all. It's just, hopefully it's an example for somebody that wants to maybe take something on board to embrace a life of difficulty and discipline in pursuit of spiritual and honorable greatness. Honorable greatness. By the way, I'm not a sellout with money either. I don't know if you probably already have a feeling about that. I'm not a sellout with money. We all have to make a living for our families, and thank goodness, thank you, SAS, thank you, Special Forces. I'm able to provide well. I've got a great team, both Marine Corps officers and my brother Chase, Green Beret, John Yowie, Marine Corps infantry officer, and all the brothers, combat veterans from my team. I've got so much support, but I say no to almost everything business-wise. I'm not sure if my sacred experiences belong to a brand. Especially what about John Bass alone, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient from Guadalcanal, fought all the way to Iwo Jima. What about Miyamoto Musashi, who taught himself swordsmanship and fought more duels than any man has ever fought, and lived to an age where he could do poetry and painting? What about Roger Sparks, who you must have on here one day, highest decorated pararescueman of all time, and Recon Marine legend, and my Recon instructor? How about as flawed as he is, my father, Rudy Reyes Sr.? So every time I'd come back from my courses, I would go see him first. I was married at the time. No, not my wife at the time. Dad. And he'd wear my black Scout Sniper sweatshirt, my Combat Dive t-shirt, my Recon sweatshirts, my Airborne and Hearst Master, and my Dems pack. He'd wear all my stuff, so proud. Even as flawed as he was, what a freaking hero he was. And you know what? I know that he's so proud of me right now, and I'm so happy that I'm making him proud. It must be from a higher place. It's not ambition. It's beyond ambition. This is beyond ambition.
When you got to the point where you decided to go into the military, what was that experience like? And how did you go from wanting to, help these orphans in this situation to going into snipers and all these specialist things? What was the sort of allure from that?
Wow. Well, you know what? Without Chunman Sit and the Eastern philosophy and Zen Buddhism supporting and buttressing my life, the Marine Corps is like, if there's yin and yang, it's the yang. It is the extreme masculine, it's the extreme power, it's the extreme aggression. I did not have Chunman Sit there. I learned to suffer harder, but make my enemies suffer more than me. We are conditioned to aggress because, believe it or not, it's the safest thing to do. I know it's counterintuitive, but to aggress through an enemy ambush is safer, and you might just live. By fighting, if you have to, biting their throats out and stabbing and chopping them to death with your E-tools, or close quarter butt stroking them and smashing their heads open with the butt of your rifle. That may be the safest and the most humane thing you can do because maybe a few of you will live.
When you say that, it sounds like you've experienced that.
Oh yes. I was ambushed close quarter, and we chopped our way through them. And not a hesitation. And thank God, or else, not me. What if one of my men died? Do you know that my men that have died, because, after a while our platoon breaks up and then the senior guys go and create other teams and platoons, and my brothers that I fought with in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq, and later they're going back. Now think about this freaking shame. Now I'm in movies and TV, and they're still fucking going head to head with Taliban, and they're getting sold out. And getting shot in the back of the head by Afghan army. Brother losing both of his arms in an RPG attack. Brother Caruso getting shot through. The enemy knew now that we're so good at close quarter battle and we're so freaking aggressive, we're going to make it through and we're going to get you. So they just would put up a false wall and stay there and just spray at everybody coming through until eventually they're hit and they killed my buddy. So I'd never been to First Sergeant Smith's funeral. I never went to a single funeral, brother. First of all, I was fighting all those freaking years. I didn't go to a funeral because I was still fighting. Afterwards, I've never been to their family's house. And I know I'm getting strong enough soon to do that. Soon. So what? It's bigger than what people can explain, this real world. I believe I've been in the real world.
I mean, you have been completely on the underbelly of it.
Yeah, under it all. Under it all. I mean, all this nice electricity, and notice there's no garbage in the streets here. We've got the best trade, even though politically right now it seems the entire West is upside down. But we still have. I mean, look at what we have. At least we have boys' homes where orphans can go. Trust me, when I was fighting in Iraq and those hordes of kids that were savagely freaking beating each other for a scrap of food, or in Kenya, the orphans that I trained at the orphanage, teaching them karate, their parents were dead from being shot for stealing a pineapple for their family. Man, it's just, what a savage real world it is out there, and I never take it for granted. And maybe that's why we talk, and why I keep my weapon skills and keep my body skills, keep my martial skills, keep my mind strong, is because I know that's the real world. And maybe I may be called to act again one day, and it's my duty to be ready. And it's not from a space of violence. I'm not thinking of this as a badass. not thinking of this as some kind of superhero. I'm just thinking about the truth. And maybe one day my community needs me, or the community overseas needs me. If somebody needs me, I'll be ready.
Do you think seeing the extreme of human nature, of pure evil, and experiencing that gives you this ability to have compassion on the other side, to be able to see the good in the world as well?
Oh, I think so. I think it's equidistant. The further you go into darkness, the more expansive is your light. Khalil Gibran said it best. I'll paraphrase. He said, the empty cavern carved inside of you from the knives of pain and suffering and abandonment, being hollowed out by the saddest and most dark things of life. That hollowing is what creates a vessel to hold the waters of life. Khalil Gibran.
This is what I'm speaking about for people who are watching this, who feel, or who have been a victim to life, or maybe still are a victim to life, that their experience is something that can actually be this massively powerful tool to help other people. And I really hope that people, when they're hearing this, can see that for yourself, obviously.
I pray. Yeah. Holy moly. We have so much more in common than we do different. I've been a part, I've witnessed things that human beings do to each other that most people can't imagine. And I've also had to turn off my heart and my compassion in the midst of things too. I'm so overwhelmed now at the opportunity to live, and that my voice means something, and that people love me and believe in me. My gosh. I mean, if you all would have seen me 8 years ago, you wouldn't recognize the man in front of you. But, when I got people like Billy and Foxy, my homies, that have been through journeys, and Chris, Q, we all counting on each other, sometimes against the most punishing of hours and tasks and dangerous, risky maneuvers that we do to put food on our table, and that these recruits, their lives are in our hands and they trust us. It's really fantastic. It's the best part of the military, is that now we're bringing the agony and the ecstasy and somehow the wisdom that comes from riding that razor's edge. We're bringing that forward to people around the world. And we're recognizing that we're all a lot closer and a lot more similar than we are different. When we have people expressing what they've been through, some people are going to watch this, they're going to have thought that they were alone. They were going to thought they were alone in abandonment, alone in shame, alone in abuse, alone in fear, alone in what happens when I have to reform myself, and is there anything there? Is it all lost? Am I lost now because I am not what I was before? I'm telling you, there's a phoenix opportunity for each and every one of you. I'm living proof. So is Michael, so is Caesar, so is my wife, Jade, so is my family by having a relationship again with them. The phoenix is waiting for all of us. You just got to take a step forward to it. Take a step forward. You're going to be surprised. The freaking universe, God himself, is conspiring to get you there. He's conspiring to get you there. So take that on board.
I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. I just wanted to mention one more time my efforts in this charity run. I'm going to be going from the north of Scotland in Inverness. I found a 220-pound stone out there that I want to be my son's headstone. But I thought the grandest gesture I could do for my son is carry it all the way back to his resting place. That's 450 miles away. So on that journey, I will be doing the world's heaviest marathon with 100 kilos on my back. That stone is then going to be cut down to a 30 to 40 kilo stone. I'm going to strap that to my back and run 450 miles all the way home. And all of it is in the name of raising money and awareness for parents who have lost their babies and raising awareness around stillbirth. I want to stop the exploitation of these companies who are providing headstones for bereaved parents. I think that it should be a minimum that we should get headstones in the hands of bereaved parents so they can honor their children in the way that they wish to. So that's our mission as a charity, is to provide those headstones for free. To do that, we need to raise as much money as we can to provide headstones and also tooling to make headstones. So at the moment, there are 3 ways you can help us. There is a GoFundMe page linked down below for the charity run. I'm committing to you that I will run those 450 miles and I will break the world record. If you think that sounds good and you've enjoyed our videos over the years, please go support us down below. There is a giveaway for the UK and some of the audience around Great Britain for a brass monkey ice bath worth over £25,000, the best in the business. Every £5 donation with the brass monkey link giveaway down below will get you an entry into the ice bath raffle, but also the £5, the whole £5 goes to the charity to help bereaved parents. And then also on top of that, the third way for our American audience or worldwide audience, if you're able to accept this through your customs, American audience definitely can, is the Vortex optics scope and a Vortex rangefinder. And I'm going to get the model number up. The Razor HD Gen 3 6-36X56 FFP and the Impact 4000 ballistic rail mounted laser rangefinder. Vortex have teamed up with Chad Robichaux to give that away. So I cannot thank them both enough. Amazing company, amazing person. It's worth over $9,000, I believe. It's a very expensive setup. If you want to get into that, it's $5 donation. The whole $5 goes to the charity and you get a chance to win the rangefinder and the optics lens. Pew, shooter. I used it. It was really cool. So yeah, thank you so much to all the support. I cannot thank you enough. We're going to make an impact. We're going to make a difference. And I promise to you guys that I will get this job done. I'm on a mission. I'm going to break the world record. Let's dive back into this amazing episode with Rudy Reyes. There's no doubt in my mind that the modern day warriors, I think, you know, yourself, Billy, Foxy, who I'd love to have a conversation with Foxy as well.
Deep man.
Yeah.
Very deep man.
But you guys, you know, you are you're the modern day warrior, and you've seen, even throughout the history books, some of the most brutal fights, battles, wars, but you are some of the greatest teachers. And I really do think that that's why our audience connects so well, you know, and it is the depth of pain that you've seen. It's huge. And I can't thank you guys enough, you know, for sharing it with us, because it is, you know, you talk about compartmentalizing and how you arrived here today. Is that stuff now that you can, I mean, you were sharing some of it today, but you know, the stuff that you compartmentalize, are you able to talk now of how we arrived in that 8 years ago, you know, that dark moment? What was it that throughout the military and your military experience arrived you at that point?
I've been through so much, or I had witnessed such an extremity of violence and pain and suffering, people on fire, you know, children in pieces on the deck. A mentally handicapped child pawing at me after I killed the child. It was a boy or a girl, I don't know, because it had palsy and could not move, but scoot around on its ass. It was naked. Because that's the hard world that I fight in. If you're not an asset, you'll be lucky, you know, to make it to 10 years old. And this thing was clawing at me and then clawing at its uncle or father or brother. 2 more insurgents, 1 woman, 1 man, went that way to the boat. My gun trucks intercepted them. It's, as warm it is in here, it's twice as warm and punishing July in Iraq. And I had to run to this gunfight because we were taking fire. I've got 3 other taskers coming down to me on the radio from higher, and I'm trying to do a battle damage assessment and make sure when I'm doing my 5 and 25s and searching that I don't hit a tripwire and fucking blow us all up. And they have pressure plates to make sure I don't fucking die here with my team. And I kick this child off of me because I've got, man, it's so freaking hot, fucking pouring sweat. I'm slick, so I only got 70 or 80 pounds on me. I don't have my Bergen, I don't have my ruck. I've just got my fighting kit, 70, 80 pounds. Ammunition and water mostly. And my medic, who I love. So our medics are very special. You know, they go through an accelerated medical school and surgeon program. Our special operations medics, 18 Delta. He looks at me because he knows I'm a sweetheart. And like, what happened to you, Rudy? You know, we're first names in the special operations community. And I said, what the fuck are you looking at? I got a job to do. All right, let's get the fuck out of here. We left him there. I didn't remember that until I heard my son crying. He was about 3 years old. And the crying reminded me of this child. I hadn't thought about it ever again. Then I felt this wave hit me, and then gravity pressing me down. I started to shake, and I'm at a dinner in a nice restaurant with people. And I got to step away, and I start to shake. I think these things were happening to me, and I just said, okay, then I'm just going to do drugs and drink because I cannot handle this, nor am I going to admit to myself that I got a problem. I say, you know who's got a problem? It's my buddy Eddie without his arms. You know who's got a problem? It's Jeske's family because their son was murdered by one of our allies. You know who's got a problem? It's for Sergeant Smith because his family's never going to see him again. You know who's got a problem? It's Eric Cucker, who's lost his mind and is forever going to be on a watch list and can't work anymore. They've got problems. I don't have problems. So what the fuck is your excuse, Rudy? That prevented me from ever healing. Prevented me from ever healing at all. It was the anger and the toughness and my own toughness in the end that almost took my life. My own hardness that served me so well is why I almost took my life. It was real hard. Imagine having those conversations with yourself every single day. I was obsessed with pain and suffering myself. And I was still doing some fitness modeling and maybe do a movie or two. And then I got a great counterterror mission. In Northeast Africa. I got to run and gun, teach and train, empower, fight the good fight, clean and sober, powerful. But it never lasted. And in between, I would keep falling further and further away. I probably hurt everybody that really loved me. I hurt them. Everybody that just wanted to be around me because I was their cool special operations commando guy, that was really awesome, and you'd feel really cool around because you could also fucking kill everybody in the room. Those are the people I was around. And I kind of liked it because I knew I was kind of hanging out with low vibration because I thought myself that I was low vibration now and there was no future for me. Oh, it ain't that hard, Rudy. Come on, you're only suffering this bad. Come on, it can go worse. One of my sniper brothers, who's now dead, he chopped up a bunch of heroin in the cocaine. I didn't know it, so freaking doing lines, drinking at some hovel in Bronx. And I start throwing up uncontrollably, right? Because I guess it's the heroin. I was laughing. It made me laugh. So I just did more. I didn't care. I definitely didn't care about me. Because I couldn't even have that conversation that something really is hurting me. Oh, that doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt. One day my fucking nose is bleeding so bad and I'm throwing up so bad and or I find myself in a veterans mental institution with a bunch of freaking criminals. And I'm a highly decorated operator, and I'm with a lot of really, really suffering people that have been prostitutes, drug dealers, armed robbers, in prison, out of prison, and now here I am. One day when you look at that stack of medals on my chest, and my jump wings, my dive bubble, my hog's tooth, and this beautiful earned regalia that can only be earned in war. And here I am having to check in every 3 hours and do a piss test every day. And oh man, it was just really hard. But somehow I didn't completely give up. I think that was, again, meant to be. Maybe, God just knows that one day I would accept God's higher purpose, and that at the end of me, there's something more, and there's something been there the entire time. And I've always thought that would be quitting. It's like asking for help. I'm serious. I was such a self-starter and self-motivator. I was a team leader. Asking for help from God was too much. I thought that was quitting. I thought that was weak. One day I was in the mirror and I said, I am weak. I got nothing left. I got nothing left. There's nothing inside. I am weak. And still, it was a courtship for about 2 years, I definitely pray for other people. Never pray for me. But I damn sure do now. I say my prayers every night. I thank God every time I have some food. And I'm always praying for the very, very best for people in sacrifice and struggle, I talked to you earlier. I'm not sure with my own experience if a man can become a Christian just by being taught. I'm not sure, because I grew up with my Bible stories, which are, Campbell-esque archetypes of transformation and of righteousness and of honor, sacrifice. I grew up loving Samson and David, of course. Little did I know, I never put two and two together, that David, who's the young man that slayed the giant, was the David that became corrupt and sent his own brother into warfare because he wanted to sleep with his wife, and his brother was killed. When I found out about David's larger mythology, I freaking hated him. And then one day I became that guy. Thank God I never stole money and used people for money. Thank God I never sold out or freaking robbed anybody. But you know what? I let people down, and I let myself down. And I decided, instead of taking charge, I'll just keep doing drugs. Ain't much difference. To reconcile that, that's where I'm at now, and I am. And I'm letting everybody else out there know that you can reconcile it. You can. You absolutely can.
You had a moment where you hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
What was that moment like?
Oh, well, my son, I was horrible to his mom. I was horrible to everybody that was close to me. All I wanted to do was street fight or gunfight. And watch really, really deep, morose films and read really harsh books. I was obsessed with especially World War I and the Mongols, Cambodia and Vietnam. I was obsessed with these charnel houses of tyranny and slaughter. And his mother said, I'm not going to see him anymore. And I was very close to becoming violent. I remember seeing my son. He's about 3 or 4. Her brother-in-law was coming. And I thought, well, if I've got to kill everybody here and take my son, I know I've got contacts in Africa and I can go on the run for a while. And maybe I can raise my baby. I'm going to raise him right. I'll raise him to at least he's 12, maybe 15. Have enough years with me to make it. And, eventually I'll probably be killed or put in prison, but we're going to do this. And thank God I did not. Thank God I did not pull the trigger. And so I was served with summons. A restraining order was put against me, and I was not going to be able to see my son. I had to go to court. I spent all my money on a lawyer. The problem wasn't the lawyer. The problem was me. The problem was me. And looking back, I was so fucking arrogant. I didn't realize it, but I was so fucking arrogant. So I was so filled with the dark side. I mean, when you're a kid and you watch Star Wars and you say, how could Darth Vader become that way? He was a Jedi. I know how he could become that way. I freaking lived it. As the judge was talking, I put my hand up in there. I said, hold, to the judge. I told the judge, hold, like I've got to say something. I was almost put in jail right there. And shit, I know I brought some blow with me. I was probably doing cocaine in between. I definitely was on the drive home. So when I lost him, and again, an example of a pure child, a pure baby, a chance for Rudy Reyes to be a child. That now a new Rudy Reyes has a chance at childhood, has a chance at innocence. And Rudy, you f***ed it up. You. So I pushed myself to the edge. I'd been up for 3 or 4 days. I'd watched this documentary, Century of the Self, which is really incredible. It's about bass drives, psychological, and sexual conqueror / tyrannical drives that we see in the chimpanzees, and we damn sure see in humanity, and how Freud, with Bernays, taught advertising, used to be known as propaganda, to harness these base drives to sell product. And I thought of myself, I'm a fucking product. I was a product for my country. Nobody gives a fuck about the war. I was a product for my Marine Corps. Now I'm like this. And then the war machines moved on. They don't give a fuck about me because I'm useless anyway. We've been fighting for 15 years. Nobody even talks about it. We're still fighting. I'm a sellout. I'm a product. And I got my pistol and I put it in my mouth. Went in condition 1, put it in my mouth, crying. I was fighting myself. Well, do I stay alive, or do I end this pain and shame? And then I'm thinking, but when he's older, what will he think? What will he think? That his daddy didn't love him enough to be there. But still I said, I can't take it. I can't take it. And then I felt God's voice with words that I can't describe, but a feeling of that there is more for you, my son. There's more. You must take that pistol out of your mouth. And the competitor that I am, I took that pistol out of my mouth, and just like when Shun Man Sit tells me it's going to be 500 side kicks on each side, I'm going to do 1,000. So when that force told me to take that gun out of my mouth, I got on the phone, I called Caesar. I said, Caesar, get all my guns out of my house. If the divine is stepping in to save my life, I better do something too. That would be disrespectful. That's how I was thinking. I flushed down my freaking drugs and stopped drinking and started training immediately. Got myself together in about 3 days. And that was my comeback. My comeback about 8 years ago. Started Force Blue shortly after that. 2.5 years after that, Meet My Lovely Jade. 2 years after that, SAS. Year after that, Special Forces. And now, now I'm doing some documentary work with my company, New War Productions. We just did a documentary of the actors of Band of Brothers who just jumped in for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And These are the actors that portrayed our American heroes. And I just like dominoes fall, when you can't hold your balance and you make one mistake, it can fall. I've seen blooms happen to me as well. I feel like I'm in the springtime again, and it's blooming everywhere. But I really had to embrace that Phoenix opportunity. This world is not a passive world. This life is not a passive world. Get involved. Take it personal.
You speak about the warrior quite a bit, and the warrior mentality, I think, is something that has served you very well throughout your life, and especially in your darkest of moments, coming back and straight into training. Could you speak to the warrior? And it's also on the level of, firstly from your side as in the military, and what to be a warrior meant, but then also, for people who are watching this who might not have that, might not be in the military, how would being a warrior serve them in their day-to-day lives anyway?
The warrior archetype, it's the way. Aside from preachers and holy men, I don't think there's a more misunderstood way of life. Warriors are not trapped with idolatry and glamour. Warriors are not enthralled by hubris and fame. Glory left unchecked in the warrior experience turns to corruption. I've witnessed it in my community. I've even witnessed it in myself. Thank God I got a hold of myself. Thank God God brought me down on my knees quick so I could come back. The warrior archetype and the way of the warrior, it's warrior mindset. It is a brutal and unwavering desire to face with courage oblivion. In that oblivion, you're going to find a reason why you live. And all warriors find why they live is for others. It doesn't have to be kickboxing or military or jiu-jitsu. Sometimes that everyday man or woman that does that 9-to-5 job and still does a part-time on the weekend, for those 3 kids to have some decent food and still struggle at having a decent education. When I see people also that have struggled with weight, being overweight and unhealthy, and I see them walking on the streets or in the gym, I find the courage of those people, the warrior spirit in those people. I'm enthralled with that courage. I'm enthralled with what demons they're fighting. So although, I'm a character in Call of Duty and I have a record for fighting war and I know how to fight with my hands, my body, and I still keep my skills up, those are just tools. Do not confuse the tools of a professional with the way of the warrior. Each and every one of you out there has the opportunity to be a warrior.
Something you've said there is having a true warrior is having a higher purpose above themselves.
Yes.
For somebody.
Yes.
For somebody else. One of the best pieces of advice I've heard, or I feel is, one of the best pieces of advice is if you're struggling, if you're in a difficult moment, if you can go out and help somebody else, you'll give yourself enough purpose that it'll help yourself as well. And I think when you're talking about being a warrior, it embodies that completely.
Yes.
People who, again, is, you feel powerless to life and that it's beat you down. But if you can go out there and help somebody else, I promise you it will reward you massively.
Samurai. Samurai means to serve. Samurai, the translation in Japanese is to serve. The greatest swordsman in the world, their title means service. I think that says it all.
You know, you spoke about the power of, you know, being able to call in the jets or whatever it was whilst you was in the military. Was there any time where you lost that service to others in your mind while serving?
No, not in the military. And my teammates and we are riding the razor's edge of life and death, doing some gnarly shit, deep behind enemy lines, helicopter insert. We did a jump insert. How about patrolling through the Euphrates, through the river, and crawling onto an island with the reeds, with our sniper systems, and searching for enemy boats coming through, or after those Blackwater contractor brothers, you know, I had chow with those men that morning, and they had a couple of females that were with them. They had a little contingent of 5 or 8, maybe. I could tell that they were too casual, that they didn't know how dangerous this place really is. This is my third war. It's Fallujah. And I'm doing a left seat, right seat with the Army. So we're doing a battlefield turnover. The Army has been overrun. They've given it to 1st Recon now to take over. The Army's been overrun. They've taken so many casualties, so many IEDs, so many mortars coming into the base killing. They called me back as an instructor to take a team to Fallujah to create some law and order. That was the most dangerous place in the world. We get a call that these contractors are in contact. By the time we get to that bridge, they're already burned up and hanging on the bridge. Delta comes in to do a hard hit. They're in Little Birds. All my Recon brothers, we're all infantrymen first, by the way. We're all infantrymen, machine gunners, riflemen, mortarmen. We know the basics of all combat. And of course, we're high speed too. I get everybody down online. We bring our gun trucks down into defilade so only the gun is hanging up. Delta comes in on some pretty high speed, tricked out Humvees. They look cool as fuck. They're probably dressed like me at the time, looking cool as fuck. And their Little Bird gets blown right out of the sky, right above me by a heat-seeking missile. Wham! Delta doesn't know what the fuck to do. We open up and just start lighting up everybody in that Ville that's got freaking weapons and RPGs and anybody moving to us. That was my first 3 days in Fallujah. Welcome. You know, good morning, Fallujah. And I lived this way for 7 months, day and night, overt and covert missions. I don't remember ever really doing anything except looking for the enemy to kill. However, I never was angry. By the way, one of my teammates was killed, and one of my 8 of my brothers were wounded, one of them horribly. I had to clean his flesh of his body and his blood all over the bottom of the Humvee after we towed it back. By the way, the men that ambushed us, and we counter-ambushed and smoked all of them, Bravo Company put all their bodies on top of the Humvees, and we drove through the town with all the dead insurgents laying over our vehicles like deer. Let everybody know this is who you're dealing with now. And we took the fight to them. I never was angry, but I knew everything was on the line, and I would never be caught. I would never be caught because I was not aggressive enough. Therefore, fear was not going to be in the equation. I will always be aggressive. That means that fear or fatigue are not in the equation. To this day, I still have sleeping problems. And I still have sleep to this very day because of that. Because when I get tired, sometimes I even get more energy, or my mind races, or naturally my heart starts beating really fast when I get really tired, or what, like this morning, the cats woke me up, and I got up, and I want to get a few more hours of sleep, but anytime I wake up, my heart starts beating really fast. I think it must be from the 1 or 2 times I fell asleep. Eventually I'm up for 3 days on mission, and then finally I say, all right, assistant team leader, all right, Dan Weiner, all right, McCoy, you got the radio, right? I'm going to try to sleep for an hour or 2. You got the radio, right? I've been awake for 3 days. We've been running and gunning. Everything's okay, right? If anything happens, you get me up, right? When I fall asleep, I hear a squawk of the radio, because sometimes there's incoming, sometimes, it's combat, it's war. I'd always wake up, my heart's beating. What's happening? What's happening? I still get that response even now, even if it's just the cats that jump up. So, I gotta pay for this. That's okay. At least I can. Imagine what the alternative would be, Jordan. What if I succumb? That means I would have died there, or worse, the men would have died, and then I would have taken my own life. I know I couldn't have lived with that. That would be the alternative. I think some of this PTSD is an honor to have. I believe my PTSD is an honor to have, and I treat it as such, and therefore, do not let it rule me, understand it for what it is, and try to better equip myself so that I can live a fruitful life.
That's the first time I've heard PTSD described like that, but it is, a result of the price you paid.
Yeah.
Massively.
So I talked to my little brother Michael yesterday, and he's been taking care of my mom. I help him out financially for his endeavor of doing martial art and putting it out on YouTube and stuff. And I just want my brothers to grow and take some pieces from my life that can help their lives. All I want to do is see my family do well. Jade, my children, Michael, Caesar, my teammates. And so my mother's here in Dallas somewhere, and she's sick, and I don't know what. She's not texted me back, but she's always been so needy and so pessimistic, and I associate her with every victim that I've witnessed, especially in my younger years, and how all those victims were casualties or became perpetrators. I think it's a fine line, and I think it eventually is crossed. A victim becomes a perpetrator. That's maybe something the audience ought to think about. You stay a victim long enough, you become a perpetrator. It's almost like a zombie apocalypse thing. Like you get bit, and if you don't transmute that poison into insight, wisdom, and action to fight the good fight, you become a zombie first, and then you become a cannibal and spread it on to others. So that's my mom, and there's a lot of people like that. You see it in the gang culture, you see it in the drug culture, the crime culture. I sometimes think that I hold on to that pain. Maybe I even hold on to a little bit of that hate, because it gives me so much freaking energy to fight the good fight. And I was telling Mikey, I just got back from my son's family, and they've got a grandfather, grandma, they've got little cousins, his mom and dad. They all do hockey and swimming, and my son's doing Kumon, which is some education thing to help his comprehension, because he's so freaking hyper. He just blasts through his reading and doesn't really hold on to much because he wants to go play hockey. I'm seeing this, and I'm the outlander invited, the savage that used to, I remember his grandfather, because I didn't change him in 3 days. I grew up very, very poor, so whenever clothes you're wearing, those are your play clothes, and you don't have any other clothes to put on. I didn't realize he's got 3 drawers in a closet full of clothes. They got so many clothes, they provide, there's so many clothes, but, And his grandfather said, "Is that the outfit I saw him have 3 days ago?" I said, "Yeah, I mean, he's playing outside, right?" You know? And I said, I invaded a country and toppled the regime in a gas mask and a freaking hazardous material suit. And I didn't shower for 3 weeks, and that's all I had. And he goes, "Well, this is not the Army." And I said, "Well, I was in the Marine Corps." I was such a shrewd son of a bitch. That's the way it used to be, to now FaceTiming with Jade and everybody saying we miss you, and them piling on the barbecue, and then the really good Filipino food and rice, and the husband's brother and I just kicking it, and him trying to teach me about golf. Everything but the dark. Pure possibility of love, of light, of happiness together. Seeing that, and then I get a text from my mom. I tell Mike, "Well, you know, this is the antithesis of what I want. Rudy, you should forgive her." It's, you know, it's what Jade says too. "Rudy, forgive her, you know, focus on." I said, "How can I? When I see what real love and what real families and community do, and I recognize now, I've let these people off. Our family abandoned us. Our family abandoned us, Mikey. They left us to the dogs. You know, they left us to the dogs, and I took the hardest part of it. But I know when I talk about it, it sounds ferocious, but I hear it. I hear it in my own voice. I hear the hate, and I saw two speaking. I've only realized, really, since I've been with Jade, because she's walked me through and been beside me, how much hate I have too, and what a fucking motivator that hate is. But now I'm changing, and there's some more things I'd like to change, and that's one of them.
On the point of Tulam, you know, that conversation I had, this speaks...
So interesting, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the situation that I feel that you find yourself in with your mum at the moment. So like I said, I wasn't in the greatest place when I met Tu, and that's what that conversation, that clip that you heard was based on. It was a situation that I was kind of going through. And I actually started going to therapy around that same time. And I remember saying to the therapist, whatever you do, I don't want you to remove the power that I feel from this pain, this situation.
Yeah, with you.
And I said, I'll go through therapy, but you can't take this away from me because it makes me so powerful. And I carried this pain around with me. And I had a lot of hatred or a lot of anger towards God.
I get it.
Not that I believed, I don't know if I believed at the time or even believe now.
But you're like, creation, how could you do this?
How could you do this to me? And I harbored that hatred for a long, long time. And it held me back so much.
I understand.
It was like this massive weight that I was carrying around with me all the time. And it made me powerful, but the moment I let go, everything changed.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, I'm obviously not to speak to your situation, but I think every time I felt that with people, and especially regarding losing my son, that the moment I let go of the weight, it just kind of freed it up. And I spoke about Owen McManus, and he said to me that, you know, the most powerful thing of all, it's not the pain that you feel from the situation, it's not the hurt that you feel from the situation, it would be the love that you had for that person. It'd be the love, and that really, really made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, this is really powerful, and also, you know, maybe some of these scars, you know, the tissue, some of the tissue will be scarred forever. So some of this tissue cannot be removed. this emotional tissue. Maybe also because I was injured and abandoned and hurt horribly very young. Imagine you've only had a few years of being alive. So it's really deep. But if I can remember that, again, it's a blessing to have been robust enough to to have the scar instead of just bleeding out. I could have bled out. You know, I was so depressed when I was 9 years old, you know what I mean? I could have bled out. Instead, my body, my mind, maybe my soul was strong enough and wise enough to give me some scars because it stopped me from bleeding. And now I can address some of those things. You know, I've read, you know, only Jade and my two brothers know what I harbor inside, because mostly I'm such a champion for so many. Like I said, when I think about, you know, sure, it may be tough for me, but it's tougher for Jeske's family. It's tougher for Sergeant Smith's family. They never get to see them again. I can bear it. I can bear it. People look up to me. But it keeps me from addressing and looking at really just how hurt I was. And so it comes out in other strange ways sometimes. And I don't want that no more. I don't want that no more. I want better, and I can find it. I can let it happen. It's a challenge, though. It is a challenge, even for, you know, and you know, when people think I maybe some wisdom or some perspective, I'd say, well, I'd hope if you've been around for 52 years, you might have some perspective, you know. So I don't think I'm all that for that reason. I do think that my taste in music, film, and art is very high level. But that's about it, you know what I mean? And women have, I think maybe this conversation with you came at the right time. My mother's sick. She's here somewhere in Dallas. I should see her. You know, I didn't get to see Rudy Reyes Sr. when he died. And I should see her. And that song from Bruce Springsteen, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that's how I've been with my mom in the last couple of years. I saw her for the first time a couple of years ago, and immediately we were at Thanksgiving, and I just started going into her. And then I got myself back. I think that now seeing my son's family and what support is and what love is and what sacrifice is, it reminds me of how little my brothers and I had, and that my brothers still, I guess we all three suffer. They suffer with struggles of sometimes really being afraid to go out into the world and bloom. They think their time's over. You know what I mean? You know, we used to describe ourselves as hardworking Mexicans because all we did is labor jobs. And that's a lot to be proud of, actually. It's a lot to be proud of. I'm proud of both Michael and Caesar. Caesar's a chef, and Michael's a construction business owner. And he specializes in doing the freaking grittiest and hardest of work. He installs floors and hardwood floors and refurbishes, you know, 100-year-old wood. So he works on his hands and knees. You know, there's a lot of honor there. I have insecurity too. I have no education outside of the military, and I'm getting older, so my body's not what it was before. It takes me longer to recover, and I have pain now. I've only just started saving money and making good enough money to leave a future for my family. Only just now, the last few years. So there's some insecurity there. There's an immediacy to my work right now for that reason. Maybe that's why I'm so driven right now. I guess I'm driven like a 20-year-old right now, because now I witness my mortality. There's insecurity there. Like, man, I make this joke, and it speaks to my insecurity. and my fear that I don't have that much to give outside of what people know me for. But I say no one's hiring Fat Rudy. So I'm afraid if I'm not the pinnacle of conditioning and athletics that no one's going to value me. But you know what? This damn show, this silly show, SAS and Special Forces, what I've learned from the boys about how much they value me, they value me for my heart, for the energy. You know, I didn't realize cameras are rolling. You know, they're always rolling. But Billy's hanging out his hoop. He's freaking laying on his rack. His combat trousers are down just so his underwear, because he's so hot and he's sweating. And I say, hey, brother, you guys need anything? Because, you know, I learned from you British. Anytime someone gets a brew, you offer everyone else and you make a brew for everyone. I love this about your community. So we always make brews for each other, right? I say, you need anything, brothers? You know, Bounty chocolate, what do you guys need? Billy goes, could use a large bag of enthusiasm. And I said, I got you, dog. I got you, dog. And that's what I've brought to this team, is that large bag of enthusiasm. And man, how can you quantify that?
You can't, I mean, you have it in abundance for sure. You're a life and soul, man. You really are. We have a varied demographic of people, you know, from the ages of 20 to 50. And we do have a lot of people who feel that I'm 30 years old. Some people, I'm 20 years old, I'm 30 years old. It's too late for me.
Never too late.
Your whole career, you know, this transformation has happened in the last few years.
Yes, last few years. At the age of 48 or 49, I got my chance. I got my 20th chance. Finally got it right enough on the 20th chance.
But is it ever too late?
It's never too late. You have the moment of right now to make a decision. Hey, I want more. I can be more. I am more. Look at our human race. You know, we're all related to each other. Go back to Genghis Khan. He made it happen. We're all related to him. You know what I mean? We're related to Genghis. If he could do it, we can do it. You know what I'm saying? You know, when I was going through my selection, it's interesting. The selection, people say, how do you do it? And of course, I was an athlete already and I was disciplined. But it boils down to this. When I saw my instructors, who, by the way, were men like me, Billy, Foxy, Chris, Q, Remy, when I saw them, I said, wow, the real John Rambos, wow. And they get to wear black. Wow, I want to be like that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but they've got 2 legs. They've got a torso. They've got 2 arms. Sure, they got some thick muscle, but they did it. Then I must be able to do it. So I leaned in. If someone did it, then I must be able to do it. I don't know if I don't think it was arrogance at the time either. I thought it was the way I experienced it was a real noble truth. If someone's done it, then it's possible. And I'm here for a reason, so let's go for it.
That mentality, fortunately, I don't know what, maybe it was that coach I spoke about who gave me that kind of feeling, but if I've seen somebody else do it, if it's a human, then it's possible.
Yes.
And I hope that people can embody that, you know, that feeling, because it really is true. Like you know, we are limitless. I do believe we can truly, if we're set our minds to it. And I also love the idea of, you know, setting that bar for other people, you know, being that example. I think we have this saying, this motto at Mulligan Brothers, inspire change. And we mean that through action, you know, through, and you are doing it at the age of 48, having this massive transformation in your life, where I think that is where this audience comes from.
Yes.
These people who are listening to you come from, is obviously you have all the backing, you have your history, you know, your accolades, but now you're on this other journey where, you know, you're working on yourself spiritually, emotionally, in your faith. And like, that's where I feel like there's so much value, because people are inspired by the fact that you're willing to have a huge change on yourself at this point in your life. And I think it's just so beneficial to hear you talk about your past, present, and future as well.
Yes, my future's even, more filled with abundance and challenge, but I embrace the challenge. And, I'm going to go train the children of the fallen with Force Blue next week. And then I speak at Navy EOD. That's the most premier bomb squad, special operations bomb squad in the world. The day after, I'm compelled to share. These people need me. And little do they know, I need them just as much. I need them just as much. You know what? When I met Jade, she needed me. But what I really needed to pull me through the fog, I needed to be needed for something special and pure. And then the roles reversed. I found that she was helping me far more than I had helped her. And, that stays in the spiritual and emotional equilibrium. No, I can only speak for a man. A man will not be filled with hubris when they're living that honestly and purely with their loved ones and their community. There will be no space for hubris. You will recognize it immediately as something that's getting in the way and something that's false.
When did you know, or when would somebody know that they're ready to be the help for somebody else? I think like when you talk about your experiences and what you've been through, there is obviously massive value in being able to share lessons to other people. And there are other people here who are probably struggling with the things that they're going through. At what point can they be the help for other people?
When I started Force Blue, I had these 4 pillars. Physical fitness, because this is our human freaking spaceship that we blast through life with. And you got to make sure all the parts are working, and that the mainframe's online, and that the jets are working. You know what I'm saying? Got to have the fuel. Then you need Mother Nature, all right? In the land, in the mountains, in the oceans, in the rivers. Then you need community. You'll find those first 2 things are going to get you around other like-minded people. And they may need you or you need them. But if you need them, the power you get from it, you'll be like a magnet attracted to help others. And the last thing is a purpose. The purpose. And that's for every individual to joyfully discover. I can't tell you your purpose, but you'll find it if you step on that path. And it's a joy. It's a joy. The energy never stops once you've aligned with purpose.
Stepping on the path, I think that's it. We have this question of how do I find my purpose? How do I find what I'm supposed to do? And I think just being on the path, sometimes for some people it hits them like that. For other people, it could be years down the line, but stepping on that path. And for me, the purpose is in just being on that journey anyway.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's in of itself fulfilling. And, when I used to train fighters or physical fitness, I would say we are not surface driven, we're purpose driven. And our community, which, all of us, even if we grew up or were born into hardship, there's been a community of human cultures for thousands of years that gave us the opportunity to be here. We must be in service of what came before. There's so much beauty that came before.
Yeah, we are so blessed to exist as well. And maybe this is a good point to sort of round up this. We've got to do this again though, Rudy.
We will, brother. Anytime.
I think I heard the bells go, so I think we ran over. But in all the situations that you've been in, around death and destruction, was there a time where even amongst all of that, you saw pure love or compassion in those situations? Is there something that, you remember?
Oh yeah, my man Sean Patrick and I, my illustrious team leader, who retired from MARSOC a few years ago, now is running his concrete business. As country as you can. Who are your country people in the UK? Would that be the Welsh or Who are your real country folk?
Not North, I'd say. Yorkshire.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. He's country, brother. He's Scots-Irish. Hunters from the hills of North Carolina. Honorable. Never will speak about their own physical pain. Nothing ever hurts because they're woodsmen and they're factory workers and they worked in the mines. We were invading Iraq, brother, and we were having to put iodine and bleach into water we were taking from the Euphrates that's got, dead animals and humans in it and could be irradiated too from the war before. And we're all out of food. We're slaughtering goats when we can, but we can't make fires because we don't have the tactical ability. So we dig a hole and have this little piece of grate, wire grate that we'll make a fire with. And I brought my espresso maker, the one that you put the ramekin in and pack it full of coffee. And then you put the water on the bottom and you twist it on and it's Italian, right? And then you put it right on the fire and it bubbles up. So it's 1 cup of espresso. And we'd put that in a cup and we'd put in a couple of hot chocolate packages, and mix it up, cover up darkness and share it around each other. And we'd be laughing, having the time of our life, even though it's savage as hell. And death's around every freaking corner. We're being lit up and artillery and mortars are coming in and we're having to drive over bodies and incoming, outgoing. But we share that coffee and that chocolate together. And Sean was hit right next to me in the heaviest of ambushes in the middle of the night. We chopped away through these guys. And the bullets went right through. A bullet went right through my windshield right here, but Sean was hit here. So I go to reach for him and the insurgents are coming up in this ditch and Sean's still shooting with one arm, and he's trying to stabilize his leg. I turn this way and we've got guys coming this way. My Chafin is shooting so fast and so hard right by my ear. My ear's still gone. We chop our way through this thing. 3 of my tires are blown out. There's bullets all over the freaking Humvee. We somehow get our way out after we've secured the area by killing all the insurgents. Then I've got to get him out of there. And we still got a machine gun that's way up the road that's shooting too. So the car is like a clown car. It's going like this, you know what I mean? And I'm scared to death because my best friend and the hero and the man that's been to Somalia and Haiti, the freaking salty snake eater Recon Marine is leaving me. And it's now me in charge with my other 3 men. And I'm like, holy smokes, we don't even know how long it's going to take us to get to Baghdad. We're way ahead of everybody else. We're just chopping our way through every city. And I get him to the hasty Cassivac with a helicopter and some trucks. And there's some wounded American soldiers. This is far away, so maybe 20 kilometers backwards. And then there's some wounded Iraqis. And like with tears, but also pride of my man that's leaving. And then the pride he had in his eyes for me, knowing that I'm going to go all the way with these guys. And me gingerly running through his ruck and making sure I get his watch cap, his black watch cap, and his freaking Copenhagen, his dip. And those moments of real humanity, of real humanity, and real hope. And, so be it if we all die doing this thing. At least it was real for us. At least we had each other. And, we love each other to this day. All of us, my community, my special operations community, Recon, Marine Corps, even my brothers on the UK, God dang, we're a brotherhood. We're a family like you cannot believe. Find your family. Make your own instrument something to be proud of. Go into the world, make a difference. Find your family.
Wow. If we were to direct the audience to a place where they could find out, more of, what we've spoken about today, your message, where would you direct them to go?
Yes, first, forceblueteam.org. Repurposing Special Operations Combat Divers. By the way, I have Royal Marine Commandos, SAS, NS, SBS on my team, as well as Recon, as well as Pararescue, Combat Controllers, SEALs, Army Rangers, Delta. We now use our amphibious skills that we cultivated for warfare to now rebuild coral reefs and do ocean conservation, saving turtles, mammals. We have a child's program that I'm getting ready to go on to. And we teach the children of the fallen to heal themselves through ocean work and scuba. And now we have a scholarship for our children to go to college and pursue healing and creating as a way of being brave and being a warrior. So forceblueteam.org, veteran nonprofit, 100% of everything that we raise.
Is there a donation link on the website?
Yes, you can donate. Please donate.
Amazing, yeah, please, guys.
And then I have a little website, rudyreyes.com. You can see a little bit about me and see the few pictures of my childhood. And some of those pictures are hard to reconcile with the man that you see right now, because I was hurting really bad back then. But you know what? You couldn't stop. You couldn't keep me from smiling. Couldn't keep me from smiling. And then my Instagram is really easy, Real Rudy Reyes. And those are the easy ways. I got a book, a self-help book, Hero Living. I'm working on a book this year, and hopefully it'll be out by next year, and I'll do some talks out there too to inspire the warrior within.
Inspire the warrior within, right. Like I say, we've got to run this back. And also, I'm so devastated we're not there next week. That would have been incredible to see, because I've seen the films from it. So if anybody wants to go support that, please do, because
awesome.
The work's amazing.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you so much for today.
You're welcome, brother. Fantastic.
That was amazing. Honestly, that's so good.